Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and LEAP, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning, helping students with tests, school, and life based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the two of us today, we have over 60 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating topic we want to explore today is the best and worst extracurriculars for high school students. But first, let's meet our special guest, Marlena Corcoran.
Dr. Marlena Corcoran is the founder of Athena Mentor, International University Admissions Counseling. Before starting Athena Mentor, Marlena had held visiting research appointments at Brown, Harvard, Princeton, Oxford, and the CNRS in Paris. For almost 20 years, she has helped young people discover who they are and what they really care about, and present themselves with confidence, enthusiasm, and success to the most selective colleges and MBA programs in the world. Marlena is the author of Year by Year to College for IB and international students. Welcome.
Thank you, Amy, and I'm very happy to add another 20 years of experience to our collective experience today. As Amy said, I am the founder of Athena Mentor, and I started Athena Mentor here in Germany when I moved to Munich and discovered just how little international students understood about applying to highly selective colleges in the United States. So I'm publishing a book that has some special tips for international baccalaureate and international students. It's called Year by Year to College. And I think that it will be helpful to anyone who feels just a little bit outside of the college admissions process today.
Now, Marlena, that book was previously available, but you don't want people to search for it online because it's in full revision for the second edition, correct?
The world changed with the pandemic. I think we all know what happened there. And I felt that I needed to completely rewrite this book in light of what's important today in college admissions. And the new edition will be available as of January 1st. 2026. And anyone who would like to be on the list for pre-orders or to order it directly over my website can go to the Athena Mentor website, which is athenamentor.com.
Now, the world has changed, and being on the being on the beat of following things that are happening with college admissions, we're always looking at the different aspects of the application and aspects of colleges and their rankings. Now, you were previously on the show a while ago to discuss how to tell the Ivies apart. That was a fun conversation, and I think that this conversation on the best and worst extracurriculars will also be good because extracurriculars is such an important component of college application, but also really an aspect of high school life. So I want to dive right into your hottest takes, Marlena, and start with the worst. You did the best. We're talking about the best and worst extracurriculars. What are the worst extracurricular activities for college-bound students?
Well, I hope that I can inject a bit of humor into what is always a fraught discussion as students and their parents ask, what are the best extracurricular activities? I thought I'd start off with the worst. And for the answer to this, I'm sure that people are expecting a thing, a particular club, a particular sport. But my view on the worst extracurricular activity is anything that peaks in November of your senior year. And this way of looking at it, not as a thing, but as an activity, brings out the concern with timing that is also prominent in my book, Year by Year to College. So I'd like to name two activities that peak in November. It doesn't mean you cannot engage in these activities, but it needs real planning to pull it off. The first is team sports that peak in November.
I
And
know
that's
you're talking
different.
about football,
Football.
Marlena. Football's
Well,
a big path
football,
to college for so many
Well, that would be
students.
soccer, right? Football, soccer.
girls volleyball, and
Oh,
Girls volleyball.
interestingly enough, girls sports and boys sports can be on very different timelines.
Yes.
So before you sign up for recreational sports that peak in November and absolutely require that you take one for the team, and you don't want to let anyone down at the peak moment of your college applications, plan carefully.
so I was not an athlete. My question, I was a theater girl. So would you include someone who's in like the fall musical with or play? Would that be similar?
That's right, Amy. If there's a big production in November, you need to push some of your college application activities forward so that you are free to give your all to that theater production in November. And if I may, I'd like to also say that athletes, we're not talking about you. Athletes know how to pace themselves and how to structure their time so that everything gets done. In my experience of the last 20 years, it's recreational sports that are the problem, and the devotion to your team that comes with recreational sports. But if I may mention one other, it's Model United Nations.
What?
My kids
Model
did
Yes,
that.
UN is
exactly.
the best.
MUN.
Come on.
Yeah, a lot of people think so. But the conferences in Stanford, or for European students in The Hague, for German students in Munich, in Berlin, they take place in November. And I'm a little worried about the students I know who are going to tell me, oh, but I must fly to St. Petersburg, or I must fly here or there because I have MUN. Well, fine, but that means you'd better get very busy in August and September.
And to be clear, you're not suggesting these are bad activities. The point that you're trying to make, which I think isn't lost on Mike and I, is that in the timeline of college applications and the amount of work and time investment, it's very difficult if you're heavily involved in these activities in the fall of your senior year to really do justice to the college application process. Is that really the point you're making?
That's right. It's not the thing, it's the timing.
I was afraid you were going to come up with some activities that colleges look askance at because you're describing activities that are feathers in the cap for any applicant. Model UN, my daughter was very involved with
Yeah,
Model
my boys
UN.
were.
It was fantastic. And we think of how many athletes are cross-country runners and volleyball players and football players. And that's an important part of their high school experience and their path to college. So, I'm wondering, are there any activities that actually don't look good on the application?
Well, the runners up for worst extracurricular activity would be my neighbor's nephew did X and he got into the University of Pennsylvania, so my daughter must do X. And the problem there is, once again, thinking of the activity as a thing, because you don't know what the neighbor's nephew's entire profile looked like or how that fit in his development toward college. So again, it's not the thing itself, it's about how it fits in.
So, are you thinking of the student who focuses on fencing or crew or French horn because they've heard that that's the kind of activity that highly selective schools favor?
That is one entire category, yes. And I would say for those activities, you don't even know whether your neighbor's nephew was admitted despite his devotion to the French horn or to fencing. You don't know how it fit in to his profile and how it might or might not fit into yours. There is no magic bullet, no magic thing that a person can choose as an extracurricular. It's about how it fits in to their overall development over time, over the years, and the picture that they present as a whole.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, we talk about authenticity on the podcast a lot. So your activities have to be authentic to you, but what you cannot control, the applicant, is the institutional priorities that particular year, or in any given like holistic review, how you come across in a way that the school says, oh yeah, that about you is something we're drawn to, correct?
Yes, and if the French horn says nothing about you, really, then it's probably not a very important extracurricular for you. Also, as you say, Amy, they might have needed a French horn player last year, but now they've already got one. So make
Classic.
sure it's worth doing for you authentically.
Are there any activities that are actually red flags to application committees, like day trader or social media influencer?
Well, I would say that anything a student can't back up, that is an empty claim, that sounds like they did something terrifically important, but there's no evidence of accomplishment or impact.
That's really interesting. Is there anything on your mind when you say that? Like, because that I can think of a lot of activities that students do, or even credentials that they purchase that are meant to make their application look more impressive, but didn't, as you say, have an impact, didn't have impact on them as manifested through their essays, or they don't talk about it, they don't say anything about it, and there's no external evidence of impact. Does anything come to mind?
I would put this in a positive light by saying, with regard to research, which is very popular among students these days, if your research is done under the direction of one of your secondary school teachers, that teacher can write a letter of recommendation based on your work. Someone outside, it's a little problematic, because I would ask myself, if I were reading the letter, was this person writing the letter in a position to say anything negative about the candidate? And if not, then I think that's not a solid letter of recommendation. So I would focus on research that you do either at school or in the context of another academic institution, where the person can write legitimately and in detail about what you did.
So are you suggesting some of those paid research programs that students might participate in, that those programs, possibly the recommender, if you will, may not be in a position to be as honest,
As convincing, yeah.
as convincing, because it was a paid opportunity versus, yeah, like you said, like if it's done at someone's high school, that's a whole different thing. Yeah.
Also, when a student says my research was published, was it published in the journal of the organization that might be taking your money for the research?
Right.
Or did you submit it to an undergraduate or a journal for high school students, where there is an editorial committee that selects which research papers get published? That, to me, would count for a lot more.
That's fantastic. Let's ease our way to the best extracurriculars and start with ones that maybe are not great, but are not terrible either. Are there any, in your estimation, harmless extracurricular activities?
I would say anything a student does in ninth grade is harmless.
Harmless. Can't hurt, can't really help.
If you bomb, and honestly, I was thinking of my own experience with fencing, and bomb is the word there. Just forget it. You don't have to even put that down, but it may have been important to you as a younger student to try things. and find out what you really like, what you're good at, and what may find a place in the developing picture of you that constitutes your application 4 years later.
Well, I think what you're also suggesting is the ordering in which a student might put those activities on the Common App, right? Because, like you're saying, we all know you have 10 spots. If you have more than 10 things, the harmless ones will be the ones that are not going to make the spot. So if it was something you did ninth grade that really wasn't significant, that might get edited or chopped if you're trying to, vie for those 10 spots.
That's right, Amy. I would definitely myself leave fencing off the list. And you don't even know when you're in ninth grade what will turn out to be really meaningful to you. And as you suggested, the most meaningful activities should be first. And I would say there's also a question of timing in the person's life. If it's an activity that you continued from ninth grade to 12th grade, that suggests that it was important to you and should come first.
Now, when students are listing their activities, does it does it ever reflect positively on them if they share activities that they explored in ninth or even 10th grade that they didn't persist with as a sign of curiosity?
Usually that question answers itself in what you mentioned before. You only have 10 spaces.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that kind of self-selects
Don't
for
ask for an
the
addendum.
right. Right. And in fact, if it's an activity that figures in your essays, that's another indication that it was truly meaningful to you.
Right. And this is what you were talking about before about that impact, right? If you did something that sounds very impressive, but it's not reflected in any other aspect of your application, then it might be an empty credential.
Also, there's an opportunity cost to consider. If, for
Hmm.
example, your neighbor's nephew won the Regeneron contest, and so you think, well, my daughter must win the Regeneron contest, but really she wants to study the golden age of Spanish literature in college, well, she might win the Regeneron contest, but it doesn't say as much about her as a person or about the future her as the Regeneron winner who may have gone on to major in physics. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of lead up in what courses you choose to win the Regeneron contest. So again, it's not about a particular thing, but what makes sense for you.
It's funny that you mentioned time because what I was thinking about is on the Common App, they do have to list, I think it's like how many hours a week did this occupy your time. So I'm also presuming that you have to think about listing what are the things that took up the most of your time. And I'm wondering if you're saying like 30 minutes, is it worth putting on your application something that maybe was really not even kind of an afterthought of your time? Not sure what your thoughts
Yes,
are there.
or something that didn't have an afterlife. And that's where the year by year concept comes in. If it's something that you tried, especially if it was for 30 minutes, well, it's probably not going to make your most meaningful list. The problem I see is usually the opposite, that students overestimate the amount of time they spend on various activities. And I have to ask them to add up the hours that they claim they were working on these extracurricular activities. And it turns out that it's 60 hours a week. That doesn't say much for the amount of time you put into your schoolwork, and it just doesn't sound realistic. And then they usually chuckle and say, well, maybe it was.
And that's
Um,
good experience for a career in consulting. You can bill extra.
mhm.
Let's
Yeah,
talk about, Marlena, the other side of the coin, the best extracurricular activities, what you refer to as supercurriculars.
I love that word, by the way.
it is in fact originally from UK. university admissions. So for people who think that this is only an obsession of US colleges, not quite true, because being in Europe, I often hear this, that the only thing that counts for my European or UK applications is my academic performance. That's not really true. They too are interested in this concept of supercurriculars. And they are defined differently from extracurriculars. Extracurriculars are anything you do outside of your school classes. Supercurriculars are activities that are related to what you're doing in a class in school, but go above and beyond what you were required to master as part of your class.
What would be an example of that?
Doing research, laboratory
Okay.
research,
Mhm.
beyond what's required in your physics class, taking a class in a community college because you had topped out what was available in mathematics at your high school.
Right.
Doing an online course, as you know, so many universities, and it did start with MIT years ago, they put their college courses online. And if you're brave enough to register for a certificate of completion, that assures the admissions committee that you didn't just sit back and listen to the lectures, but you actually did the work. And
So
so
what
students who are interested in something like finance, the lectures for that are online, and that's a subject that's not taught in school, but might be related to your economics course, for example.
So it sounds like to me what you're really talking about, a supercurricular is often something that really focuses on intellectual curiosity, right? Like that you are so interested in this that you have gone outside of your normal school classes to really pursue something that is of interest or passion for you.
That's right. It's not super in the sense of super duper, that it looks really glamorous, but that it's super in the sense of above, as in
Above, yes.
above
I
and
like the
beyond.
roots that you're sharing. This is fantastic. I've never heard of supercurriculars before, but that makes perfect sense. They are a true hallmark of academic authenticity. You're so interested in this topic. You're devoting your extracurricular time to learning more and showing more competence in those areas.
That's right. And related to what you brought up before, Mike, about the order of the extracurricular activities, they're likely to be highest because they really did mean a lot to you. They show the college that you are likely to do well in your chosen field of study and that you have genuine interest in
Right.
that field. And if this was a competitive activity, you had to take an admissions test to join this mathematics society, for example. It might even suggest that you promise to be spectacular in your field. And it makes the admissions committee's job a little easier because someone else has done the vetting for them.
Would you include the AMC and math competitions in the supercurricular realm?
Yes, math competitions are a classic example. And there are wonderful activities offered by, well, the one I know is the New York Math Circle that encourages not only specific competition for students, but curiosity, intellectual curiosity about mathematics in general.
I love it. Any last thoughts about timing or what students should prioritize when it comes to extracurriculars?
Think ahead about what you would like to accomplish with this activity. For example, if your school requires you to write a research paper as part of graduation, or you've decided you want to write a research paper, do it early enough so that your teacher can write about it in his or her letter of recommendation. The school may not require you to hand in your paper until March of your senior year, but if you hand it in September, it can play a role in your letter of recommendation.
Okay, so make sure that you're trying to sequence everything so that you're able to devote your time to the admissions activities when they are required, and also that you accomplish things in time to have them reflected in your recommendations.
I would also suggest that you not wait until senior year to fill out your activities list,
Right.
because you can use it as a kind of mirror as you go along and ask yourself, is this really me? Am I looking at a true reflection of me in this list of activities? Or could it be that my activities are all laboratory based and show no community involvement? And if you do that early enough on your year by year progress toward your degree, you can fill in some of those, what might look a little like missing parts of your picture of yourself.
What fantastic advice, Marlena. I know that we could talk about this topic with you all day. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure.
If listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'd recommend they come to the Athena Mentor website, one word small, athenamentor.com, for the latest news about my forthcoming book, but also notes on my blog about articles that I regularly publish as a contributor to Forbes.com.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next Tests and the Rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Tests and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.